asked me, I guess months ago, Father Jason asked me what songs I wanted to play before I spoke, and I forgot how much those songs tear me up. That was a rough time. Then when I heard that song, It Is Well, for the first time, I listened to it for 2 hours straight. Sitting at my desk, I had a shop, long story, we'll talk over coffee later. And it just 2 hours straight over. Can you hear me? I don't know if I even need this. Can you hear me now? You think I need it? Well, if someone can turn it up, that'd be great, but I'll try to talk louder. Anyways, as I was saying, that song really tore me up. 2 hours straight of listening to that song, and then the song Pieces means a lot to me as well, because I didn't know the Lord at all very well. I was a church kind of guy, but I didn't experience who Jesus was, so I felt that I often got the crumbs from his table instead of the real Jesus. So my whole journey really starts about 8 years ago. I had a wife and 3 kids and a nice corner house and 2 cars. I had everything but a dog. So I didn't have a dog, but shortly after that I lost everything. So I tell everybody I'm one dog away from a country song. I faced my 2 biggest fears. Two of them, some of my biggest fears ever in my life. One was adultery, and the other was losing custody of my kids. I faced both of those in 1 week. Needless to say, that was not a good place for me to be. This is not a story bashing my ex. Actually, she's a fantastic lady. But the story is more about what the Lord did in my heart. So I didn't have any understanding who Jesus was. Being a Protestant, we go to church once a week. I would go to church, sing a couple of songs, hear a couple of points in the sermon, and punch my card, so to speak, and then go home. And I thought that was enough. I was miserable and unhappy, but on the outside, I was killing it. I had friends that had similar things. It just wasn't enough. So when everything was taken from me, and I often tell people that the Lord allowed everything that I put above him to be taken. I don't believe he's the one that took everything. It's a theological debate we can have later. He allowed everything to be removed from me. I had nothing left. And unfortunately, since I didn't really know him, I didn't even have enough faith to sustain me. It's a super long story, but I had a couple come up with me to start teaching me about inner healing and how our past can affect our present and prevent us from a really good future. And I started to look back on the things that I'd experienced in my life. And one thing that she always said to me is, Jeff, I'd call her all day, her and her husband, thank God it was unlimited minutes. She would a lot of times say, Jeff, listen, you really need to go spend time with Jesus. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, what do you mean? I was there on Sunday I gave like an hour. That's pretty impressive. I sang harmony during the choruses. Clearly there's more points for that. And she said, you got to spend time with Jesus. So at this point in my life, my wife left, took my kids. I have my house still. Hadn't lost it yet. And the house felt awfully big when there was nobody in it. And I sat down one night to have my sweet tea, because I live in Georgia. You have to drink that. And I had a frozen pizza, and I had a movie, and I was just going to have some time to myself. And I heard this voice, which I had only heard a few times in my life, say, I want you to spend some time with me. That didn't make any sense to me. It couldn't be Jesus, because he's like really busy. The Middle East is a mess. Surely he doesn't have time for me. And so the opening credits are rolling up, and I'm kind of like, what was that? And he said it again. I heard that voice again. I want you to spend time with me. It's like, but do you know me? Like, I didn't want to spend time with me. I surely didn't think that the Almighty Creator of the universe wanted to spend time with me, but I had no other options in my life. I was broke. I lost my job 4 months before I got fired. A few months before I got divorced, excuse me. And a few months later, I lost my house. I was in the process of losing all my material things. I was allergic to alcohol, so I couldn't drink. Didn't have any money to buy drugs, and nobody would date me, so I couldn't use the normal earthly medications to erase this pain. So the only thing I did have was an iced tea maker and a driveway. And so I kind of curiously went outside. It was at night, so I could see some of the stars. And I was like, hi? It was like a middle school dance, kind of awkward. Kind of glad you're there, but off to the corner, don't really want to interact. And I didn't have anything to say because I didn't know who he was. And so it started a journey for me of a lot of prayer. So it's like I said, at first it was like, well, hey, Jesus, I think you might have known what's happened. I kind of wish you'd been there because I accused him of not being there. And then my prayers turned into, well, okay, So you say you love me and you're perfect, so let's do this. Let's list off all the things that I know are wrong with me, and that could take days. So I started listing, I struggle with this, I'm a terrible father, I'm just not good at this. And then I thought to myself, how in the world could I possibly explain to him all the things that are wrong with me? Surely he knows. Nothing's ever occurred to Jesus. I can't inform him of anything. And it didn't make sense for me to keep telling him what's wrong. So then I just started asking him just to make me more like him. I thought that made sense, right? Make me more like you. You're perfect. You're the perfect father. You're the perfect everything. He never dated, which I actually do comedy, in case you couldn't tell. And I have a whole bunch of Jesus jokes that are very tasteful. He thinks they're great. And one of the jokes is, it's ironic the only perfect man never dated. So the church gets that one. What does that mean? Anyways. So here I am walking with this immense amount of pain. I have no earthly way to even take a part of the pain away. All I had was this time with Jesus. So what happened is, I felt this little blip of peace in my spirit. Now the pain didn't go away, don't get me wrong. And he could have taken it away from me. I've heard stories where people have had that experience, but that wasn't for me. So I spent a little more time with him. So 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes. And then 15 minutes. And at one point it was 3 hours of being outside. I tell people I spent about a year praying outside. I watched the constellations pass. I could tell, where the planets were based on the season because I was outside so much. And my neighbors, well, they still think I'm weird. One of my neighbors across the street, she was from Tennessee. And she said, Jeff, were you up last night praying about 1 in the morning? I was like, yeah, actually, I was. She's like, my dog was barking at you. Sorry, I don't speak in tongues nor dog. So it was kind of cool that my neighbors knew I was out there praying. So what started happening is, further, the peace started increasing and the pain started going down. And I started to get a better grasp of who Jesus is. I started to hear from him more, which is a really odd thing, because it wouldn't just be when I was pursuing him. It would be just throughout the day. I'd have dreams, and he started to communicate with me. And he started to give me an idea of who I really was. So the problem I had before this is I didn't know him, and I put all my identity in my wife. She was going to tell me I'm a great man. She's going to tell me I'm smart, handsome, and strong, and I cut the grass perfect. I was turning to her to answer all of my questions. She wasn't designed to answer those questions. We are to never take to people the questions of our identity. Now, they can support what the Lord's already taught us, but I implore you guys, you have to go to Jesus to find out who you are. That is the only way you're going to have peace, joy, happiness, love, kindness, all the fruits of the Spirit. I learned that the hard way. I didn't even realize at the time my wife was also drowning in her own issues. And so here I am it's like you're drowning and someone jumps on your shoulder. It's like, now we're both dead. Thank you very much. Didn't go very well. So the Lord started showing me who he was. And I started feeling this love. I started feeling a peace. I started feeling joy. Meanwhile, my life's a train wreck. On paper, it's pretty bad. Like I said, I got fired in January, divorced in May. A week and a half before my divorce, my best friend gets married. And his mom pulled him aside and said, Jeff doesn't seem like he's really into this. He's like, Mom, he got divorced a week and a half ago. Cut me some slack. And he used this song in his wedding that was really ministering to me. So I was in the mess in the corner when he was dancing with his wife. And it was funny now, and it was terrible. And so my friends were watching all this happen, and they were asking me questions because I started to have a happiness. And I used to pray. I have a list of things the Lord would taught me. I'll give you guys some cool phrases he gave me. One of which was, change my circumstances or make me a better man to handle it. And my circumstances got actually worse. My ex, you can't hear me still? No. Do I have to keep the microphone? Yes. I don't know what germs are around here. So I'd love to pray this. Lord, I ask you to take away all the germs. Did I do the opening prayer like you asked me to do? No, disobedient. All right, let's pray. Since I already got started, let's back up and let's pause. And I'm going to pray over us, and hopefully I'll make some sense in the next few minutes. Oh, Lord Jesus, thank you for Michigan. It's beautiful. I think you know that it's very cold. Keep us warm, Lord. And I ask, Father, that you speak clearly through me. They're not here to hear me. They are here to hear from you. And Lord, I want to clearly communicate what you've done for me and what you continue to do. I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for Father Jason, Lord. So bless us. Bless this time. I pray this in your perfect name. This feels weird. probably burn this when this is over, though. Someone's going to get an awful cold sore. Anyways. Alrighty, so where was I? Let's see, divorced. Then, I told you my circumstances got worse. My ex-wife got pregnant. Then ended up marrying the guy. And I'm always going to be totally honest with you. When I found out she was cheating on me, I literally asked the Lord if I could kill the guy. No joke. I'm half Sicilian in my nation. I literally prayed to him and said, Lord, can I kill him? Because I was hurting so bad, and surely he was the source of my problems. And the Lord said to me, he's not your enemy, Jeff. Our enemy is not flesh and bones, it's principalities and authorities. No human being on this planet is your enemy. He did not destroy your marriage. Your marriage was awful before he showed up. And so I was like, that's a cool answer. And a few weeks later, I said, hey, can I kill him? Please. I'll go to jail. I look good in orange. I'm totally okay with that. And the Lord reminded me again. He said, Jeff, he is not your enemy. Do not take this out on him. And I couldn't even take it out on my ex. I thought she was my enemy, but she clearly wasn't. So here I am spending more and more time in prayer. I'm not a good reader. I do read the scriptures every day. And a friend of mine suggested that I do the verse of the day on my iPhone. It's still the Bible, even though it's digital. Trust me, I asked. And I would read the verse of the day, and I would text it to my 3 kids. And I text it every day to my mom. It's probably been 6 years of doing that. And if I ever miss, my mom's from New Jersey, she's like, hey, you didn't send the voice last night. So I'm sorry, Mom, I went to bed really late. So then, here I am spending more and more time with Jesus, and he's starting to affect my heart in ways that I didn't even know was possible. Again, I started having fruits of the Spirit: peace, love, joy. I was getting happy, even though, again, my life on paper was terrible. And then I met Father Jason, which is a whole other very interesting story. I'll leave a lot of details because I don't have a ton of time. But when I met him, I was playing drums at his church, because he mentioned before that I am not Catholic. Jesus still loves me. I promise, he really does. I was actually raised in the Catholic Church because I'm Italian and my family's from New York, so there's the roots. And I started hanging out with this guy, and we started talking about inner healing. And I was real reluctant to share what I was learning about inner healing. You've all probably heard the phrase PTSD. I'm sure you've heard that, post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah. It's becoming more, I'm very thankful, it's becoming more and more prevalent. I wish they would change the name. I don't like it being called post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't think it's a disorder. I tell people it's a very healthy response to an unhealthy situation. Do you guys understand what it is? Show of hands. Does it make sense? 7 of you. Okay. I'll be brief on this. PTSD is whenever you encounter any sort of trauma, there is a chance that your mind can fracture or split. It's kind of weird, I know, but go with it. And you hear it from soldiers when they come back from war. They hear a car backfire or firecrackers go off, and they feel like they're instantly back in war. That is something that a friend of mine started helping with, because I had all these past pains and hurts that I was still dealing with, fears that I was still dealing with. I brought them into my marriage, and my wife didn't fix it because I thought that was her job. So I met Father Jason. He's basically my age. We started hanging out, and I said, this guy's kind of cool. I wonder how he feels about this whole PTSD thing and this whole parts and inner healing. And he was like, you know, Jeff, I've been studying that. And I was like, really? That's weird. First of all, you're Catholic. But we joke a lot about that. And so anyway, so I befriended him, and we started doing ministry together. It was about 2 years in Atlanta. I played drums in the band, and I started teaching the youth and hosting the event. And Father Jason and I would go on these amazing journeys. One of my favorite stories that I tell is, he called me one day about 11 o'clock. He's like, Jeff, someone called the church. They've got demons in their house. You want to come help me get them out? I said, yes, I do. So he swung by and picked me up, and I won't get into the details, but this was normal for us. You know, talking to people's hurting parts and casting out demons. It was a normal thing. That was a very great. I still love telling that story. But I will spare you the details of that. How much time do I have left? But I want to run over.
10:30. You got 15 minutes.
Got 15 more minutes. Okay. Talked about that. One of the things I did when I was in prayer is I would repeat things over and over again. And one of the things I would say to the Lord is, hold me, mold me, heal me, grow me. When I'd sat in my chair outside with my sweet tea and making the neighbor's dog bark, I would repeat that over and over and over. And again, the pain didn't necessarily go away, but I would hear him more. My heart was happier. And I was able to kind of share that enjoy it with people, especially my friends that were sort of still close to me. Because, when a bomb goes off in your life, your friends tend to go, wow, that's terrible. I'll be over here. A lot of my friends disappeared because it was a pretty bad situation. But the peace started coming up and the joy, and I started to have this word called love. Before all this happened, I was not very good at loving people. I felt that if you weren't like me, didn't understand me, then you weren't worth my time. And of course, during this time, too, my father passed away. He passed away about 3 years ago now. And one thing my dad was good at was loving people. He'd have people at his house all the time. I remember driving back from when he died. I'm driving home, and I'm in tears. And I said, Lord, I don't love like you do. I'm really bad at loving. I need you, Father, to teach me how to love like you do. And they say, be careful what you ask for sometimes. It's very true. But he took me on a journey of what it meant to accept people for exactly who they are. Love them no matter what they're walking through. And just be friendly. And it drew people in. I had a detail and car audio shop at the time. And Father Jason would send people. I'd get these random phone calls, and they'd go, hope I don't owe this person money. Hello? And they'd say, hey, is this Jeff? I go, yeah. I got your name from Father Jason. I'm like, I know what this one's going to be about. And so we'd have people come to my shop, and we'd sit and we'd pray. And I started to, as my journey of prayer, my own personal prayer deepened, the Lord started giving me information. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Someone can get somebody's mail. Have you ever heard that phrase before? Absolutely nobody. Fantastic.
Word of knowledge.
Word of knowledge. It's when the Holy Spirit can talk through you, and when you meet somebody, if it's what the Lord wants, you will learn things about that person that they never told you. Well, as Father Jason would send me these people, they'd sit across from me, and I would have this love for them. I actually cared. Meanwhile, like I said, my life was falling apart, but it was almost, not that it didn't matter, but it was almost to the point where it was okay. Because I was spending so much time with him. He wasn't changing the situation, but he was making me a better man to handle it. And I was able to share something with some of the people from his church and see their lives get turned around as well, because they didn't understand why my life was such a train wreck. But I was happy. And that's something that my church never taught me, and all the years that I went to church, it never explained to me the depth of relationship that you actually can have with Jesus. Because it's kind of hard to believe that the cool kid would love me. And that's kind of, Jesus is perfect. He's amazing. He had a bad day once. That Friday was terrible. But Sunday rolled around, and it was a heck of a lot better after that. But it taught me that he actually did love me. And when the perfect Almighty Creator of the universe loves you, that really starts working on your self-esteem. Like when he asked me to spend time with him, my own earthly father didn't spend time with me. And he wasn't perfect. We reconciled. This is another, it's a whole different story. We did reconcile before he passed. But if the Almighty Creator of the universe wants to spend time with me, that must mean I mean something. That must mean I must have some value. And then, of course, even the picture of him dying on the cross. I told the kids at St. Brendan's, I said, Jesus loves you to death, his own. He loved you to the point where he was willing to die for you. I'm like, well, that's a really high price to pay for me. So that, with being in the Word and spending more and more and more time with him, it started to rebuild who I was. And the lies of the enemy, you're worthless, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're fat, whatever, all the junk, I'm sure all of you hear those things in your head. That's not Jesus, that's the enemy, and they're lies. He was rebuilding me up into someone that I never thought I could be. It's still a journey, of course. It'll be a journey until the day I pass. But the things that I've learned, the things that I've seen are amazing. It's all because I was able to step out of the church mode, if you will, and step into that relationship with him and spend a lot of time with him. Church is amazing. We all should go. I'm not bashing the church. But if you combine the church with personal time with Jesus and in the Word, that's a trifecta. That will absolutely and completely change your life. And that's my suggestion. We can talk more about it later. But that's just the first thing I want to talk about. We'll talk more about forgiveness when I come up after lunch. And that's a whole other ball of wax. But anyways, I'm done.
All right, so let's pray with that. Let's pray with that. So we can just close our eyes. And I invite you again to repeat after me. Lord Jesus,
Lord Jesus,
I believe that you want to be my friend.
I believe that you want to be my friend.
I believe that you want to bless me.
I believe that you want to bless me.
I believe that you want me to know you better.
I believe that you want to know me better.
Help me to get to know you better.
Help me to get to know you better.
To experience you more.
To experience you more.
So that I can love you more.
So that I can love you more.
And have your peace.
And have your peace.
A peace that the world cannot give.
A peace that the world cannot give.
Holy Spirit,
Holy Spirit,
please come.
please come.
Touch my heart.
Touch my heart.
Enlighten my mind.
Enlighten my mind.
Speak to me.
Speak to me.
Jesus, meek and humble of heart,
Jesus, meek and humble of heart.
make my heart more like yours.
Make my heart more like yours.
Jesus, draw me to yourself.
Jesus, draw me to yourself.
Attract me.
Attract me.
Move me.
Move me.
I want to be close to you.
I want to be close to you.
I don't want to be afraid.
I don't want to be afraid.
Show me who I am.
Show me who I am.
Show me who you are.
Show me who you are.
Help me to become more like you.
Help me to become more like you.
Let your light shine
Let your light shine
in me
in me
and through me.
and through me.
Here I am, Lord.
Here I am, Lord.
I come to do your will.
I come to do your will.
And I believe
And I believe
that your will
that your will
is to be my best friend.
is to be my best friend.
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
I want a relationship with you.
I want a relationship with you.
I want to know what it is
I want to know what it is
to be your child,
to be your child,
to be loved by you.
to be loved by you.
I believe
I believe
that you want to provide for me.
that you want to provide for me.
Please increase my faith.
Please increase my faith.
Help my unbelief.
Help my unbelief.
Thank you, Lord,
Thank you, Lord,
for the gift of faith,
for the gift of faith,
for the gift of life,
for the gift of life,
for the gift of my friends,
for for the gift of my friends
and my family members.
and my family members.
Thank you for the gift of your Son
Thank you for the gift of your Son
and for the Holy Spirit.
and for the Holy Spirit.
Help me to appreciate
Help me to appreciate
what I have become
what I have become
because of what you have done for me.
because of what you have done for me.
Amen.
Amen.
So I'll give you time now. Switch it. We'll have time for yourself now, silence, and if you need to step out, get some fresh air, feel free to do so. And we'll meet back here at 11 o'clock.